on? Blossom is back, and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives. Today, I want to talk about the strange and very stressful Yesco Absolute Final experience. This has been one of the most, I would say, meticulously planned finals from Hutch, and I have to give them credit because what you're gonna see later is absolutely insane. As per usual, since this is an amazing prize car, big prize car, I'm going to dedicate an entire video to this and the hand that I used to win it. I've done this, on very rare occasions. I think I've only done it on the Zonda Revolution, the Urus, and the Bugatti Chiron Sport before. So anyway, without further ado, I'm gonna show you the clip of me winning the Yesco, and there is this one audio part where it gets really muffled up, but basically what happened was when I got the Yesco, Val asked me what were the odds that I would sell the Yesco Absolute, and I told him, okay, I could have said something like 1 out of 100,000 just to make myself feel safe, but I decided to say 1 out of 100 to keep things entertaining. Take a really good listen to the two numbers we said and how close that was. It was insane. But obviously after that clip, we'll come back into this and I'll show you my new Max Legendary, the hand that I used to win the Yesco Absolute, and how absolutely meticulous and close everything was. But with that said, let's get into the clip. Wait, what?
Scratched my balls.
If we say the same number from 1 to how much did you sell it?
The Yesco.
Yeah.
So if we say the right number
like
between 1 and X, I have to sell it.
Go.
Yeah, you tell me what is the X?
Let's do it. Let's do it. If we say the right number, okay.
From where to where?
Okay, I want to say something like 100,000, but we gotta keep it, entertaining, right? So 1 and 100.
Aye.
Right, ready?
Yeah.
All right, count down.
Good number choice.
3, 2, 1. 27.
Holy shit! That was so close. Holy
Close, oh my god.
You said 27, right?
Holy
I said 26.
No.
Imagine if he said 27. Hey,
I'll take
it's
the
terrible,
twos.
but it's
Let's
an epic.
go.
Yo, let's
Another
go.
legendary?
Legendary from Pack.
No, that was so
unexpected. Let's
That
get
was
another
so close.
legendary Bentley from this one.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
I'm not trying
god.
to really
legendary you could get.
Val, that was so close.
ADRQ Bentley, ADRQ Bentley, ADRQ
What
Bentley.
made you say 27? Why 27?
Honestly, hey, the same second you said 1 to 100, the number 27 came to my mind.
And
So I was like,
26
I
came
won't
to my
think about
mind.
it. I
27.
was just like, I'm gonna say that number right now.
Oh my god. That was scary.
20s.
11.
Oh, you couldn't even top 10 the daily?
I couldn't even talk to
What a
him.
noob.
Scrub.
You were focusing on
What
the
a
wrong event.
noob. The daily is more important. The aluminiums give out.
That's right.
Oh. Uncle,
You should
are you
open
cooking
an
your stock for
aluminium.
real?
You should be ashamed.
You wanna see my Patak? My aluminiums?
Oh yeah.
Patek.
Okay, I'm a
Wow.
I'm a
9-0.
Alright, let's move on to the next one. Alright guys, and we're back, and obviously I am a proud owner of the Yesco Absolute. This was, I think, out of every single prize car that has been released in 2021, this was the prize car I wanted the most. I mean, you guys obviously knew I opened all 15 of the CFs, and I didn't record this because it's kind of cursed, but I did open some premiums with gold. Yeah, not some. I opened quite a lot. But anyway, let me show you the hand that I use in the end. So, first of all, I used 2 ultra rares. I know. A lot of people are going to be like, oh, Blossom, your bracket is probably super damn easy if you're getting 2 ultra rares. Here's the thing. I'll talk about it later, how everything was incredibly close. But I started off with 2 ultra rares, the Roof BTR and the Roof BTR. I am so glad that I had an army of BTRs before this final because I didn't even need to max a single one for this. I already had, an army of BTRs for clubs. Obviously, it's a Blossom choice car, and I'm a huge fan of the car in general. I used my 699 version, 997, which that isn't the one. The 699 is the 197, and I used the 996, one of them, and then I used one epic, which was my maxed out RCT. Obviously, I got this car in the prelims rewards, and that was massive. If it wasn't for the RCT, I probably wouldn't have the Yesco Absolute, or my life would have been even more stressful than it already was. This was an amazing machine, and as you can see, I've had it for 4 days, and I've raced it 110 times. Literally, all of those races were from the finals. 110 times, 91% win ratio. This thing was getting me win conditions out of the wazoo, okay? And then the last two cars I used was my maxed out Porsche 911 Turbo. I already had this max going into the final because I maxed it when it used to be an epic. So, you know, the numbers are kind of fake because obviously, you know, I've used it many times before. And of course, a maxed Porsche 959. This one I didn't own, and I unlocked it on accident, like when I was playing clubs earlier today. But this one, unlike the 911, I had to max for the final. I've never maxed the legendary for a final. Like, I've never gone all the way, right? My Evora 410 Sport, that is at 669, so one fuse away from being maxed. That won me the Chiron Sport. My Cadillac 16 is 666. I've actually never full-on maxed a legend for a final. I mean, I guess you can say that I maxed my Viper TA Syracuse for the American Frontier final, but that one was coming anyway. I was going to max the TA regardless, but I had to max the 959, and as you can see, once again, 84% win ratio, 156 races. Now I know what you're thinking, how does this have more races than the RCT? I've been using this in clubs. I want to get the most use I can out of the 959 because I maxed this. I used so many good epics. I fused away so many good epics for this 959. I want to make it worth it. Now, I'm not really in pain. I feel like the average top drives player might be in pain to max out the 959 because I have to be completely honest with you guys. The 959 isn't really good. I had to max this thing out to beat ultra rares. In fact, I'm gonna put a really shocking screenshot right here. As you can see, my maxed out 959, a maxed legendary, beat in ultra rare the RX-7 by 0.01. It was a fraction, like a millisecond, where my max legendary had to beat an ultra, and that was kind of the story of the entire finals for me. My 959 was basically an ultra rare killer. It didn't beat the BTR2, and it couldn't beat the RCT on its home tracks, meaning my 959 couldn't beat an RCT on a fast track, and it couldn't beat a BTR2 on a twisty track. But it could beat a BTR2 on a fast track and the RCT on a twisty track. So, you know, it was weird, you know, it beat the epics, but it didn't beat them all the time, but at least I knew that it would beat the ultra rares everywhere. And here's the interesting thing that I want to talk about the final. This is the weirdest final I've ever seen, and it was something that I could not predict. Basically, from the BTR, and I would say props to Hutch, they planned this. They planned this like crazy. Every single little detail, down to the track sets, they planned it. There were so many races where the difference was literally 0.01 or 0.03. You know what I mean? It was that close. And at the end of the day, because how everything was so close to each other, every single car that you could get from the pre-2004 seater pack, from the BTR all the way to the roof CTR3, which I don't have, every single car, if you had that maxed and they raced each other, the difference was basically 50. Either way, like I would put my roof BTR against a CTR3 and I would only lose by 50, at most I think 63, right? And then I would put my max legend against someone else's max ultra, and my max legend will only win by 50. And it was the same thing with the epics. The epics would only beat the ultras by 50, or the legends would only beat the epics by 50, or in some cases the epics would only beat the legends by 50. Everything was by 50 in the finals from the roof BTR and above with a small exception of the RX-7, which was fantastic for the slalom and the G-Force. But the slalom and the G-Force wasn't on every track set. So there were some track sets where if you had the RX-7, it would lose by a lot more. That's why I didn't use it in my hand. I know a lot of people were using it, but I wasn't using it. So it was crazy. It didn't really matter if you had like an Ultra BTR or a Porsche 959, because at the end of the day, it wasn't down to if you had like 5 epics or 5 ultras. At the end of the day, the main thing that really won you in this final is the win condition majority. Okay, you might have heard me say this a lot. The phrase win condition. Win condition is basically a car beating another car, and obviously to win the entire match, sometimes you can only have one win condition, because you could be in a situation where you have 4 crappy cars, but there's one Bugatti Chiron, and maybe the track sets are all twisty, and one test bowl. That's one win condition that can win you the entire match, right? Because if you had the 4 crappy cars and they lost, but your Bugatti Chiron basically sent the other opponent's car to Gapplebee's and you won by 300,000, then yeah, you could technically win that by one race, if that makes sense. But this was a final of 3 win conditions. Like, it didn't really matter. There was nothing that would have won more by 63. And that was like a max BTR going up against a max CTR3. Like, there was nothing more than that. Like, it was just down to 3 win conditions. So basically my entire strategy was to find 3 win conditions with every opponent. And my 3 win conditions were the 959, the 911 Turbo, and the RCT. And I had to max my 959 just so it would be that extra win condition, because I needed a car that would beat the ultra rares. Because believe it or not, the RCT, I had to use it for the drags for my win condition, but the BTRs wouldn't beat the RX-7 on the slalom and the G-Force. And here's the other thing. You see I have the 911 Turbo stock. I was keeping this as a last resort just in case it could dig out another win condition for me. But the thing was, the 911 Turbo, even though it's an epic, even if I maxed it, it would have still lost to the Mazda RX-7. So what I'm trying to say is, I know that some people are going to be like, oh, Blossom, you used 2 Ultra Rares, your bracket must have been easy. But the thing was, the Ultra Rares were actually more key than the epics in this final. It was strange. The BTR is better than the 911 Turbo and the R34. The R34 was incredibly useless. I could have just said, oh, I could have used 3 epics and 2 legends, right? But the thing was, in this final, the 2 ultras, 1 epic, and 2 legends in my case was a lot stronger than if I was going to use 3 of my epics and both of the legends. The 911 Turbo and the GTR R34 were incredibly useless. So before I end the video, I just want to show you the spreadsheet, okay? The master time spreadsheet. This you can find in my Discord server. It always comes up for every final. I'm going to show it to you now since the final is already over. Look at all the times. Look at how close everything is. Every single car, regardless of rarity, regardless of legendary, epic, or ultra rare, is, within 2 to 3 seconds within it, of each other. I mean, look at indoor karting, right? A maxed out 959 does 44.99. But then if you look at the RCT, it does 45.88. That's not even a second difference. And if you look at the BTR at the bottom, it does it at 332 BTR, for crying out loud. It does it at 46.81. That's like a 2-second difference from a maxed out 959. What I'm trying to say is that everything was a difference of 50 points. Whether you be having a bunch of legendaries and a bunch of ultras, at the end of the day, yeah, obviously if you had 5 legendaries, honestly, you wouldn't even have the best hand with 5 legendaries. The best hand for this final, unless you had 5 CDR3s, but the 959 and the 911 Turbo weren't key. The best hand for this final, honestly, was if you could have had 2 roof RCTs and 3 roof BTR2s, or 2 roof RCTs, 2 BTR2s, and 1 CTR3 if you don't have 5 CTR3s. Like, it was a crazy final. This was a final where the epics were the best. The epics were ruling the world, and it was unfortunate that I couldn't get a BTR2, and because of that, I had to go and max my 959. The 959 would have beaten the BTR2 on like half of the track sets, but once again, I had to rely to the spreadsheet because I had to be really, really careful with where I was putting my 959. One misstep could have been a win or a loss against any of the opponents in my bracket. But my God, what do you guys think of this kind of final where everything is so damn close? I thought it was interesting. It was a nice little difference because in the past, you know, Hutch would have always liked to put in a Koenigsegg. You know, a great example would have been the Viper GTSR final where it was ×4 Volvo but ×5 Sweden, because they obviously wanted you to put in the Koenigsegg, and then they had tracks that's like Test Bowl and 1 mile, so the Koenigsegg would have won by 200 points. I remember my Koenigsegg won by like 150 points. You know what I mean? But like this final, there was no chance of winning by more than 100. There was no chance of winning by more than 63. 63 was the biggest loss I took in terms of points. It was incredible how close everything was. So in the end, I got through with just my strategy of getting 3 win conditions from every single race. So I would say the MVPs would have been a joint decision, a joint effort from the RCT, my 911 Turbo, and the 959. And obviously my BTRs were taking the bulk of the losses. And in fact, I don't even want to look at the win-loss ratio. 89. Okay, so maybe that wasn't the one I used. Maybe I used this one because I swear they lost. Yeah, 78. That was probably the one that took most of the losses. And then my 699 probably super low. Yeah, 69. It was probably like 83% before that, but because of the finals, it took like 100 losses. But once again, it only lost by 50. And at the end of the day, all of my races in the final were me winning by 150 to 100. It was that close in the end. But yeah, it was one hell of a final, man. It was interesting. Definitely a lot different. I remember the Bugatti Chiron Sport. Now that one was also a very stressful final for me. I stayed awake for 36 hours straight. That one wasn't as close as this because in the Bugatti Chiron Sport final, you could have used cars like the McLaren GT3s and the Jaguar CX-75s. And, you know, obviously they would have made a huge difference to, you know, the lower end Ultras and GE. So this was interesting. This was very meticulous. I props to Hutch. They probably spent a lot of time on this. It was no coincidence with the track sets that they chose and the requirements as well. This one was really well thought out. But anyway, I'm just happy I won it. Let me know down in the comments below how you guys did. But at the end of the day, man, I'm just happy that I am finally an owner of the Jesko Absolute. What's even more amazing is that if we go into country and Sweden, I can make an entire hand of Koenigsegg's. And that, I think, is absolutely beautiful. For those of you asking how to max the Absolute, I mean, honestly, it's 332, wasn't it? I mean, it's 332. I know that 333 is viable for the Jesko Absolute, but I've already tested my Jesko against the 1-1, and the Jesko loses to the 1-1 when they're both at 1 star on the twisty circuit and the twisty road. So at that point, it's like I'm really just maxing out the Jesko for the fast circuit and all the straights, so I might as well put it in the best configuration it can be, which is the 332. But anyway, that's going to be it for today, man. I hope you guys have a great day. I'm going to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace out. I bring the toast in the back and we going berserk with the guns on the rack, and we taking account to the sound of the crack. Running from us with the pop and the, cause we making the moves and the sounds of the P. Calling the shots, a bitch looking at me, and we taking account to the flow in the back with the drop in the cash. You know this ain't a prank. Moving like water, talking with fire. Bounce back on the cover to mama's desire. Keep riding the flames like a man on a mission. Rejected again, but you better go listen. Pop up at Billy, run up the Billy. My face on the boards and you all gonna